Hello YouTube, this is Ready Set Exploit and we're going to be doing OWASP Top 10 2021 from TryHackMe. Now I won't be doing the whole room. I'm only going to be focusing on one particular task, and that task is the Server Side Request Forgery task. And the reason for that is because there is a very cool Server Side Request Forgery to remote code execution that was unintended in this challenge. So we start by seeing that we can execute a server-side request forgery when trying to download a file from the site. We can point to, we can control the URL endpoint to point to us, which indicates there's a SSRF vulnerability. We then see that we can read files on the system using the server-side request forgery. Then we also find that the server is running Werkzeug with the console available, but the console is locked by a pin. So that's where the unintended path comes in. We use the server-side request forgery to read the files that we need so we can generate our own pin and get access to the console, which allows us to just execute commands. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing is you're provided with the URL on the task. So let's just have this ready. I'm not going to do my usual mmap scan like always, so I'm just going to go enter the IP address, which is 10.10.105.136. Made a typo there. 36, and the port is 8087. And we have this site, John Woo, and a lot of cats, about. So not a lot going on. If we run like a GoBuster on this, we'll see, we quickly find the admin. So any kind of directory busting tool will find this. I won't run to it right now because it's pretty standard. You should find this on your own. But admin says the admin interface is only available from localhost. So can't access it. We could try things like manipulate the remote request header, but that won't work here. If we look at some of the console information, it actually tells us that this is Werkzeug. And a common vulnerability with Werkzeug is seeing if the console was open, and the task talks about that. And well, not this task, but another task in the room talks about that, being able to access the console, and that's how Patreon was hacked in 2015. Because the console was exposed, but it was exposed without a pin, unlike we see here, which is, you always see a console for Werkzeug that's exposed. Not all, and this pin is, I believe, it's 9-digit pin, which it's 9 or 10. It's very tough to guess, because after 10 tries you get locked out. So brute force is out of the question. So we just go back to the site and let's click on this resume. At the bottom left you should see the link. So I'm actually gonna turn on Burp Suite, launch that, and there we go. So I'm actually gonna intercept it, download it, and we're going to send it to repeater, forward that, stop it. It'll ask us to download the PDF. The PDF is just a PDF of this site, right? So let's minimize this for now and have repeater. And this is the PDF of the site, actually like this. So let's see. This looks like it's just our same site with a host name here. We can verify that by doing 127.0.0.1. Should get the same result. We do. This looks ID. Not sure what that is. We can write that. We get an error. So if you didn't know about the console, you would have found it this way. If you're not sure what that looks like, you just click render. And see, this is the typical Werkzeug console, and it tells us there's an error. Invalid literal for integer base 10. And if we look at the code here, it actually tells us the variable, it happened here. The variable is file name, and this is the file ID. That looks like it's this variable here. It's turned into an integer and then a string. So what is happening here is it just checks that it forces that the ID parameter has to be an integer, otherwise it fails, right? Because integer, if you put a string, like a non-integer, is just going to fail immediately. And then it adds .pdf on it. So before, this looks like it just looks for that file .pdf. So this is the actual file name. So we have to have a number. What happens if we do a number like this? 404 not found. Okay. Can we access admin even though have that? No. Okay. Let's go back to our number there. Let's do admin. 404 not found. Okay. Can we point to ourselves? That's the first thing we want to try when dealing with Server Side Request Forgery. We can point to ourselves, then we can see more of what's going on. So let's do our IP address. You could do the HTTP, but I believe it also works with the IP address. There we go. So if we do, let's see, let's try it. Just do that. So, and first thing you should know is PyCurl. So it's just looks like I'm not familiar with that. It's just a way to call URLs, which is similar to curl. So what is PyCurl? Turn mine off now. Where'd it go? Turn off. There we go. It's a Python interface to libcurl to fetch objects by URL. So that's what that is, right? So it's just a library, and that's what it's using. Expose this key, doesn't mean anything to us right now, but the one thing that should stand out is here, and that's part of the code that we saw. So it looks like it grabs the ID number, which is right here, .pdf, we saw that, and it adds this direct, so it searches here. So this looks to be hard-coded. We can't, so our file.pdf, it gets added to this, and I don't believe we have control of this, right? Let's actually try it here. Let's see what the error says. It doesn't give us anything right here. Put a typo here. See if, oh, didn't mean that. Let's see, HTTP. There. Probably should start a listener with netcat. There we go. Okay, so HTTP works. Always good to check. Could affect your payload later on. So, what do we know? That this maybe get added in. It's double this time. Did I do? Oh, okay. It's probably because I added this. So if I do, so these are the fun things to test out to see what you could possibly control. See? But either way, even if we, there's no way to bypass, to do even like a directory traversal here, because it'll just still, this seems to be hard-coded there, right? So even if we try something like that, this won't work because it's still just going to look for that directory. So now it's just probably thinking this is the base directory. So what can we do? Well, let's try adding something the server may not expect. And error handling, which is what's happening here, displaying the error, is very helpful because we saw that this, we can't really do anything with this because this has to be a digit, right? So let's try a file we know it's always in the system. Let's see, passwd. And we get another error. Couldn't open file. Okay, So etc pass, see, so it gets hard coded there, so it looks for this entire thing. So the only thing we can control is the URL. If there's a way we can just block this from reaching the PyCurl request, then it would only look at etc pass WD. How do we do that? Well, the answer is in anchors. So if you're not sure, an anchor is, let's go to the site here, is the little pound, hashtag, whatever you want to call it, after the end of the URL. So let's go to admin. So actually, yeah, let's do admin. We get that block. Let's do anchor, whatever. Still get the same site. Now let's put the anchor at the very beginning. We're back at the site. So the anchor just kind of, you've seen that around on links. It's just used for dead links. You know, just doesn't mean anything. You know, they're all over sites. But we can utilize this. And so what happens if we put an anchor here? The issue here is that no file is selected because we're blocking this. But because it's a URL, we can pass it. We can encode it. URL encoder, so when it gets processed, it decodes and the anchor actually gets sent. So if we encode this %23, we now have our file and we have a way to read files on the system. And this doesn't matter, it just has to be a number because this is still in play. So if we put a letter, we'll get the same error. Okay? And that is the first, so that's the first way to bypass that. And you can actually get the flag now, because if we apply the same principle, do 27.0.0.1 to admin, oh, right, 8087. We have a file now, you see, and this file is where the flag is. So you can get that on your own time, but we found a way to read files. That's the most important thing. So now what can we do? And because this is the fun unintended part. So you can read files and see. We know Werkzeug is running, right? So Werkzeug, do console PIN exploit or PIN bypass. There's two sites here that I want to highlight: Hacktricks and this GitHub page, right? The reason why I want to highlight them is so once we have access to the console, we can just execute code right here like this. It's an example there, right? It's console. But it also talks about being able to reverse engineer by looking at the Werkzeug code -init on the init file for Werkzeug based on the Py version. And this is the actual code. If we reverse engineer, we have this script, and this script here uses MD5. It tells you which files to get. We need a username. These you can leave as. We need the version, which you can find, and we need these, right? We need that. So we can get an interface from here and there, and then we need one of the files here. But depending on your environment, you might need a different set of files that's here, and that's where the fun comes in. This one actually talks about the code is a little bit different, and the reason is I believe it says it on here. Yeah, right here. So if you're using an older version of Werkzeug, the hashing algorithm has to be MD5 instead of SHA-1, right? So that's why, and this is a SHA-1 exploit. So which one are we dealing with? Well, let's go back. Let's see. Now that we can read files, we need to find this file here. So how do we do that? So let's go ahead, call this error. I'm gonna make a new one. I'm gonna call this init. And I'm gonna go ahead and create a purposeful error. And if you scroll down, you actually get one of our first variables right here. You get we're using Python 3.10 site packages. So we can copy that, paste it here. We have that code, large code. Then we copy this. I wonder if this is the same. Get. No. Machine. Is it machine? Okay, no. I thought it might be the same. It's definitely not. It just looks similar. So if we do that. Oh, okay. Let's go back. We don't copy the whole thing. We copy right here. Fix that typo. There we go. Oh, okay. It's not entirely the same. And then if we go back here, we just need to look at the function, get pin and cookies name. That's not the one I want. You could find it, but the one I want is this one, the function here. Go here. There it is. So the function here, okay, and now I'll make it bigger. Function here looks at these variables. If you're not familiar with Python, that's okay. You can choose, there are comments. These are comments are helpful. There's a generate function, right? And if you just scroll down, you see that that's what we need. Get machine ID, generate. Okay, so if this is a Docker container, get the container ID instead, and it tells us which file. If it's a Linux, it tells us again which files to get, and it goes Mac OS and Windows. So you see, this is why this file is helpful. It tells us what we need, because if you see the script, it tells us to get just this. This one tells us to get, it's the wrong one. It tells us to get these two, right? Or three, I guess. But this one also tells us which hashing function is using, and is it MD5 or SHA-1? Well, we can find out. Let's see. We can find out pretty easy. We can just look for it. So we could do SHA-1. It's not found. MD5. There we go. I have two matches. One there. One there. Perfect. So let's go back. I think it was generate function. There we go. So are we in a Docker container? Good question. So let's make another one. Start finding our files. So let's see. Let's look for this one, and this is the one that we need. We could just check this one or one of these and see what it tells us. So see, we can copy that. Docker, Docker, Docker all over it. We can also, what happens if we look for a file that doesn't exist? Gives us an error, right? If we do docker.env, I mean, docker env, this is a standard Docker file. You'll see this at the root folder of every file. It's blank, which means it exists. So this tells us there's a Docker file, because if we put something that doesn't exist, it gives us an error. So there's two ways to verify it. So we do cgroup, if I can spell, there. What else do we need? We need this, and to get an interface, we need procnet arg. There we go. Hardware address, that's not what we need. That's 0242. But it does tells us the ETH0. So we need, this one's the IP address. We actually just need this. weird. This is not, oh, okay, it just says address. I read that wrong. So remember that 0242 C5 80. If we do this, see, it's different. It's close, but let me copy that. Oops. This one is CBC5 and this one is 006. This is the one we need, not the other one, right? So now we're just gonna copy this and we just need to print it. So this is just this number without the colons. So we're gonna call this pin Werkzeug. Python 3 do print 0x remove colons. There we go. Sounded funny. Perfect. And now, so we have our first there, close. I mean, that's pretty much it, just different numbers. And we have this. So let's start copying everything we have. We call pin. Save it. So I can copy that. And there we go. Now what's this number? Right? Whoops. This number we do Mac. This number is just this, right? Because you see that's pretty much what they're looking for here. So there. And now we need the username and this location here, which we kind of already knew what it was. I think it was site packages 3.5. So let's save that. So let's see. Username. Where to go? Actually, no. I'm looking at the wrong place. Go to the error. We have that there. Right? And let's see. Now the username, a couple of ways to find it. We can see for the root user, that's the easiest one. And the way to verify that, I gotta stop opening that, is by trying to read a file only root can read, right? So only root should be able to read the shadow file. Besides the shadow group, and we can read it. So that's a good way to confirm we're root. We can also confirm by reading proc self, so our own environment. And there we go. And if you look around, our home directory is root. So that's another way to prove we're the root user, right? Another thing I quickly wanted to show was the source code to the application, which is right here. Just to prove, it's always good to look at the source code in my opinion, because you can learn a lot about it. And there it is. So PyCurl, right, route, download, there it is. So if file D is not empty, it goes through here, that's the API key we saw, and let's see, so that's the check where it failed if we don't put an integer. See, hard-coded right there. And I found this very interesting, this path, because this is a directory traversal vulnerability in itself. So if we look at, see if I can find it, it's hidden. It's a little hard to find. Ah, it's not. I thought it was. Well, you have to know that it's a vulnerability. So see, a lot of times it just depends on what you search If I do that, okay, it does come up. Oh, what? I guess maybe I was doing something wrong. But look, see? Path, directory traversal. So it just looks like this was actually not too long ago, just like a little less than 2 years ago. So if we had control of this, which actually we did with file here, file parameter, the ID parameter, we could have directly done a path traversal, but this was stopping us. This is clever little trick here by the creator. So let's see, the creator Munra. So hope I pronounced that right. So I thought this was pretty neat. You know, also something to keep in mind whenever you see that. You could right away try it. You know, you have path traversal, path : path. Anyway, without getting sidetracked, what do we have? What are we missing? We have our file. We know we're the root user, and that's all we need. So we do root. Let's execute it. Get a pin. And if we did everything right, let's go to the console. Again, GoBuster would have found that for you as well. We have access to the console. And if we wanted to, we go copy in the very top, paste it, enter. We are the root user. And we can get a reverse shell and explore the system, whatever we want to do. So that is how you go from Server Side Request Forgery to a file read to getting the PIN for Werkzeug and getting direct access on the system, which is why I wanted to highlight this task, because it was very fun find. It was confirmed by the creator Munra that this was unintended, but this was very fun to do, and it doesn't really skip any steps of the challenge, you know. So that pretty much does it. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you all next time.